And if there is one place that the circular economy is really developing, well, this is the city. The city is the perfect place to embed the circular economy vision because of the scale. It's not too big, it's not too small. Cities are the right place to explore new possibilities, to explore new strategies on the circular economy. And circular economy is not just waste. Circular economy is innovation in processes, is innovation in commerce. It's innovation in the way we create space to allow the circular economy. It's not just recycling plastic. It's like, how do I enable space to repair? How do I create a system where buildings are made of reused materials? How do I design the flux of materials that come in and goes out of cities? How can I manage that? And today it's a massive opportunity that doesn't just involve technologies. Of course, here there are a lot of technologies in this exhibition, a lot of IT softwares and etc. But the concept, I think, is the main thing we have to think today. We have to reflect on how circular cities has to be and should be. And that's why the panel today will try to focus on a series of elements of how we habilitate cities to be circular. It's something that's just started, so I see there will be a lot of opportunities to keep this discussion going in the future. But today we will really see how cities are already implementing circular economy inside their border, inside their city limits. And I will be chair of this panel that will be divided in two keynotes, with also the possibility to pose questions at the end of the keynotes. And then there will be a panel that will be discussing more in-depth optimal solution related to waste management and to opportunities for circular cities. And in the meanwhile, we will also have the chance to have a break where we can network. You can network with your fellow colleagues, you can network with the people on the stage, so I really encourage you to take advantage of this networking moment that will be between the two moments in this event. I want to invite the first keynote speaker, which is Maayke Damen. She's the CEO of Excess Material Exchange, based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I have wrote about the company in my magazine a couple of issues ago, and it's a very interesting marketplace for materials that allows materials to have a new life. Mike, please, I invite you to the stage for your keynote presentation. Big round of applause, please.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. My name is Maayke. I founded the Excess Materials Exchange, a dating site for materials. And before I'm going to tell you what a dating site for materials actually does, I'm going to talk a little bit about why we should care about materials. And let me start by asking you a question. What percentage of products that we buy are waste within 6 months? Please shout it out loud. 50? 90? 51? 60 or 70? The answer is 99. It's insane. And what we see that over time, this graph is starting in 1900, resource extraction is on the rise. We're extracting more and more resources from the earth, and it's actually, as you see, predicted to more than double. And we're not only extracting more and more resources, we're only extracting more diversity as well. So in the beginning, we extracted iron. As you can see here, 1700, whereas now we also have tantalum, palladium, and all these other rare earth elements. So the diversity is also increasing. But if we talk about physical presence of resources, so I'm not talking about political or economical presence of resources, but physical presence, which means the amount of resources that are still present in the earth available to be mined. And this number is a bit controversial because it keeps on changing. because there's new technologies or there's new discoveries of ores. But this graph does give you the latest numbers on the availability of resources like silver and how many we have left in the earth. You see, there's 12 years left of silver in the Earth's crust. That's not that much. And at the same time, we're using them at an increasing rate. So worldwide, around 1 billion, this is not a typo, this is on purpose, it's a trillion, but billion makes it sound even more, bags are used a year. It's more than 1 million bags a minute. And the average lifespan is 15 minutes. Plus, the worldwide waste mountain is expected to grow, even with 70% by 2050. So we're extracting insane amounts, and we're throwing away insane amounts. What if we want to do something about that? Cities seem to be the perfect place to do that. They only occupy 3% of the surface area, but they consume more than 75% of the natural resources, emit around 75% of greenhouse gas emissions, and produce around 50% of the waste. So if we want to make an intervention somewhere, cities seem to be a great place. Plus, the demand in cities is increasing. 1 billion new residential buildings are needed for the new urban population. But right now, the majority of what we throw away in cities actually ends up in landfills. This is a graph, a Sankey diagram for the people who love these types of things, made by Metabolic. And it shows you what they do with the solid waste in the city of Charlotte in the United States. And as you can see, I calculated it's around 6% is recycled. The rest is put in landfill and nothing is done with it. Whereas the largest stock of materials is not in the Earth's crust anymore. It's actually in our built environment. We already mined it. And there's so many possibilities there. Based upon Japanese research, it's shown that in a city of around 1 million people, 10 million euros worth of gold, silver, and other valuable metals are flushed down the drain every year. This is insane. We're not doing anything with it right now. Plus, we see that of the materials that we throw away, 95% of their value is lost after a single use. And an easy example of that is the plastic cups you see behind. You drink of it once and then you throw it away. All the value that was inside is lost. So we're extracting more and more, but we're not doing much with it. Why is that? Because it's available around us. So this is a quote about plastics, but we see that this holds through for the majority of the materials. And we see that buyers and sellers have a really hard time finding each other. So, what have we done? We have created a marketplace, the Excess Materials Exchange, where we match supply and demand of materials, and materials with their highest value reuse option. And I'm going to give you 4 examples later of what that actually means. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about this marketplace, because the idea of a marketplace is not very new. So why would this one work versus all the other ones that didn't work? So how we start is by giving materials an identity. Right now, the value of materials gets lost because we don't know what is inside it. Think about phones. There is gold in our phones, and it's actually easier to mine gold from phones than from a gold mine. But by now, we know this. But from the majority of the products, we have no idea. And if we don't know, we can't make the business case. So we have a system that's called a resources passport. And this gives materials an identity. It's standardized and modular, which means that we can compare the materials that are present in a building with, for example, the materials present in a laptop. Then what we do is we add intelligence. And we do that in the form of blockchain and AI. And I know when I say these words, the majority of people is like, oh my God, this is not new at all. Let's run out of the room. The reason we use blockchain is because when you want to exchange materials on a large scale between companies, there's an issue. An issue between the need for transparency. As a company, you need to know what you're buying, the quality of what you're buying, the timing of what you're buying, but you don't want to have all your IP-sensitive information on a public marketplace. With blockchain, we overcome this issue. And then we use a set of AI tools to actually help us in the matchmaking. Because a match is not that easy to make. You have to think about logistics. You have to think about legal issues. You have to think about finance, about permit information. AI tools can do that much better and much faster than humans can. And then lastly, what we do is an integral approach. And what that means is that we look for matches not within the same sector, but between sectors. So I'll give you some examples later of what that looks like. This is what the marketplace looks like right now. This is an idea of the resources passport. And what is important here is that we look at functionality. What is the material used for right now? What is the product used for right now? And you can upload things in bulk. Convenient for large corporations. Now on to the examples. And this is an interactive part. So, coffee grounds are waste in a restaurant sector. But you can do many other things with it. You can make ink with it, with the pigments, mushrooms, with the fibers. You can make coffee cups, soap, cosmetics, and water filters. And my question to you is, which of these 6 makes the best financial business case? So instead of throwing coffee grounds away, we give them a new destination. And which of these 6 destinations is financially the most exciting destination? Yeah, please shout. Mushrooms. Cosmetics. Coffee cups, water filter. Good. It's actually pigment for ink. So we're doing this already. We're implementing this in the Netherlands with some companies. Then another example is orange peels. We generate tons of orange peels in the Netherlands. And instead of turning them into biogas, which is still one of the options, you can also do other things with it, like feed for livestock, soap, perfume, marmalade, and resin for paint. So the question to you is, which of these 6 have the best financial business case and environmental impact reduction? So by, instead of throwing them away, doing something else with it, which of these 6 have the best environmental impact reduction? Paint? Paint? Livestock? No? No other guesses? The answer is feed for livestock. Right now, we're importing a lot of soy from the Amazon as feed for livestock, whereas we're throwing away the orange peels. So the impact of not using the feed for livestock soy is gigantic. Then, packaging, also a hot topic right now. You can do lots of things with it. Instead of throwing it in the ocean, you can make shoes, furniture, fibers for carpet, fuel, coating, 3D printing. Which one of these 6 has the best combined business case, financially and environmentally? Yeah? Carpets? Come on, guys. You can do this. 3D printing. Okay, that was a choir. Let's see 3D printing. It's actually shoes. So right now, you can make shoes out of one type of plastic, and then when you're done with it, you can just either make them modular and replace parts, or shred them completely and make a new shoe out of it. Last one. Together with the Dutch railway company ProRail, we looked at railway tracks. Right now, they're sent very often to Asia for a scrap metal price of €8 a meter. We can also use them as load-bearing beams, as sound walls or fences. Which of these three options, according to you, has the best combined business case, financially and environmentally? Fence? Anyone thinking the sound wall? Yeah. The answer is load-bearing beam. They actually go for 20 to 50 euros a meter. So what we've done is we looked together with 10 big companies. For example, Sodexo, Philips, DSM, Schiphol, the airport, ProRail, the Ministry of Infrastructure, at 18 material streams. And this is just to give you an impression of 15, I think, of these streams. And what we've seen by giving these streams a new destination, other than just landfilling them or sending them off, we have created a financial value of 64 million euros, only of 18 streams within 10 companies. We have saved enough energy to light the city lights of Paris for 5 years. We saved the amount of carbon emission equal to the whole city of Amsterdam in the car driving to Milan. And we saved enough water to fill up 860 Olympic swimming pools. So talk about impact and talk about potential. We're hoping to scale up. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Today we have a couple of minutes for Q&A, so if you have a quick question, you can take advantage right now. There is someone with a microphone that will go around. Yes, please, there is one person here. Who's the guy with the microphone? One. Oh, there's no guys with a microphone right now, so you can ask loud if you want to.
I'll repeat the question, don't worry.
Sorry, there are microphones.
So her question was, are these materials that you exchange legally classified as waste? Which is a great question. Some of them are, some of them are not. The moment they are legally classified as waste, it's harder to find a new destination for them, as you probably know, otherwise you wouldn't ask the question. But there's, especially in the Netherlands, lots of research and lots of movement in whether or not we can come up with a new category, which is continued use. And there are some precedents for that. For example, the orange peels and the coffee leftover are precedents for that. Yeah.
If there are more questions, I kindly invite you to use the microphone that are set in the middle of the stage. Probably not really convenient, but otherwise, if there are no other questions, I have one for you.
Sure.
So in which countries are you actually working right now? Just the Netherlands, or are you planning to expand elsewhere? And what are the barriers also to expand in other countries?
Sure. So we started in the Netherlands because there is something that's called a resource agreement. So that's 400, I think in the meantime it's more, companies and institutions saying that they want to transition to a circular economy and want to have 50% of their materials secondary or recycled by 2030. So that is a good way to start. And these companies all had an incentive to join. But as materials and supply chains are global, we very quickly cross boundaries. So we see right now that we're operating in Northwest Europe and that there's an insane amount of tension from all over the world, but that one of the barriers is legal issues. So you run into transportation requirements, for example. And we're actually in touch with the Dutch ministries and with the European Commission to talk about this.
How cities can partner with your company? Given that probably here there will be a lot of people.
Yeah, so we work together with the metropolitan region of Amsterdam. And with them, we're looking at how companies within the region can join the platform. And right now it's already possible, so they just help us put that out on the market.
Yeah, there is another question is coming up in a second. I apologize that you have to walk all the way to the microphone.
Sorry, no problem. My name is Sebastian. I'm Portuguese. I'm from Cemex. Sorry, I'll talk a little bit louder. And you did mention that you identify the waste in buildings. I'm very curious to understand how exactly you go about looking at a building and what type of technology. How do you look at a building and you estimate, or how do you do that process of concrete, windows, wood, I don't know, all of the different materials? Can you explain that?
Sure. So right now what we do is we work together with a company that asks us to make an inventory, and we look at them with drawings. We go to the building, and we see that going down to the smallest detail is quite hard because we have to work from the building all the way down. And to keep the cost within check, we make an impact scan. So we look at the top 10 most present or most valuable materials, and then we do a deeper dive there. Yeah.
Yes, please, if you can use the microphone.
Good afternoon. I'm Manoj from India. In many countries, this recycling is much higher, like 60%, 70%, but it is mostly in informal sector. So can this be used in informal sector also?
Sure. I think what we see, because in the Netherlands, officially, the recycling rate is also really high. But what we do very often, and with the majority of the materials, is burn it to recover energy. It's a very low use of the materials. It's basically a crematorium. You lost all the materials. And especially as Europe is not that resource rich, it's not a very smart decision. So we are reusing a lot, but what we're advocating for is that we do it in a higher value. And yeah, this works in the informal sector as well.
We have 1 more minute for the last question. If there is no any.
Hi, I wondered, this is a lovely idea. What is your biggest problem for making this happen, and how do you tackle it? Sorry, that was 2 questions.
Sure. I mean, there's problems galore. Like, this is really a hard thing. We're doing a system change. So there's legal problems, there's accounting problems, there's logistical problems, there's financial problems, there's material expertise problems, there's quality problems. I mean, I can go on and on and on about the issues on creating this. What we try to do is we try to show it is possible, there is ways to overcome it, and we can de-risk this for companies. So what we did is we say we're going to start. As you saw, we have created results. And on the go, we're working in partnership with all these institutions. So we partnered with law firms, with banks, with accounting firms to look at these issues. What is actually going on? Because we need to transition to a circular economy. And we can keep on talking about it in practice and worrying about all the obstacles. And I think that's good. But we say we're going to do it and tackle all the obstacles on the go in a scientific way. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Maayke. Thanks. I want to invite our next keynote speaker, Miguel Angel González and Román, the Minsait Digital and Solution Director from Madrid, Spain. He works is a head of connected infrastructure, cities and product at Minsait, which is also digital division of India, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll let you the floor, please.
Okay, thank you. Well, my presentation has 2 different parts. The first one is around our vision of the smart city. And the second one is one example, one implementation of how we did it in the circular economy with the embed, one of our partners. So I think that we don't have the same figures than you. Some of them are a bit different. But the most important part here is, in my opinion, most of the challenges that the world have are quite related with the cities. We see that 50% of the population still today live in cities, but will be 70% in a few years, in just in 30 years. 80% of the GDP is being generated in cities, and 70% of the greenhouse gases are being generated also. Even cities occupy between 3 and 7%, depending on the figures, account for most of the responsibility and are absolutely critical to face the challenges. So when we started developing our model for digital city, we took the European city as the role model, and because some different characteristics is because they are medium density, medium size, they are connected, so it's a very well structured and are quite well situated to be the role model for the digital city. Of course, I think that we have a lot of challenges. It's not the perfect model. It's a good model, as we can see there, 85% of the high developed cities are European, but still a lot of challenges. We see challenges coming from aging population, from changes in demographical new situations, the crisis, upcoming crisis, environmental changes, a lot of things prevent us to consider as a perfect model. So instead of thinking on technology, we started considering a framework of challenges in order to see to what extent we can respond to them. So we built up this model that is structured on 4 blocks, around social challenges, economical challenges, to attract talent, to retain talent, also with the resources that the public administration has been able to do the tasks that the administration should do. Also, of course, environmental challenges and urbanistic challenges to create an inclusive city, a connected city, and also to enable the development of the digital infrastructure. Well, out of these 20 challenges that compose the 4 blocks challenge model, 6 are for environment. Those ones, efficient use of resources, challenges related with the citizen health, climate change, energy poverty, how to change the behaviors of the citizen, which is not easy. We'll see afterwards that is not a matter of communication. We need something else to do that, and smart mobility. Well, in my opinion, digitization is not only a possibility, it's the right way to address those challenges. Not all of them. In fact, only 10 out of these 20 challenges, in our opinion, can be addressed with technology. But also, we consider that cannot be addressed without technology. Technology is the real way to achieve the challenges. If we see the 2030 goals from the European Commission, in my opinion, there is no other way. We need to put technology. Technology should serve to meet the challenges, but we need to use it. Well, so, of course, after that, we create this framework of digital city that is composed of these 5 pillars, let's say. The first one, and the most important one, in my opinion, is citizen-centric. If we see how the new digital business are being made, all of them are around the customer. This model, customer-centric, in my opinion, should be moved to the public administration to create the citizen-centric. It's basically the same. How we understand the needs of the people, how to respond, how to personalize the service or the product, services mainly, how to contextualize the services, in fact, how we can create the public service 4.0, that is a new understanding of the public sector, is something very proactive, so public administration can react to the needs, even those needs are not been explicitly, let's say, exposed by the citizen. Administration should understand and react even before it is being asked to do something. So citizen-centric is the most important one. Of course, to do that, we cannot do it without integrating many different sources of data. This is why it's so important having a more horizontal approach. So we need to combine data, we need to combine technologies, we need to go to the citizen and to the different stakeholders in a more homogeneous, so we need to forget the silos approach that typically the first smart city did. When we do that, I think that we create a platform for collaboration. Everything is there, all the data is there, all the stakeholders there, so many new links, many new connections are being made in this platform, and this is one of the most important things. And also enables what we consider the connected city. The city now becomes connected inside with the local infrastructure, with the buildings, with many objects that with the 5G technology, for example, will be available, will be connected, will be there, but also connect with the territory. Many of the challenges that a typical city has are not really related with the city itself, but with the surrounding territory. Pollution, traffic, safety, many things should be solved at the wider scale. So we need to take more a smart territory approach and a smart city approach. But for sure, when we go to a territory, we find different situations. Big cities, small cities, rich cities, poor ones, touristic cities, industrial cities, many different situations that we need to consider. So we cannot take a single and monolithic approach. We need to take a more flexible approach, adapt to every city need, and also do it in a more progressive way. We will see afterwards that the methodology is very important, how to address this diversity and how to do it progressively. Well, so some lessons learned from this model based on the projects and the initiative that we already had. And the most important one is that we need to put the strategy first and the technology afterwards. In the past, I think that has been done in the other way. Most of the smart cities so far has been just a collection of technologies. Then, after 2, 3, 4 years, nobody really knows what is the value that is there, and then the financial resources are not available to go ahead. So we need to have a clear strategy, and we need to leverage what already exists. It's not only a city we cannot start from scratch. We need to consider what already is there in terms of organization, technology, and many other things. And also, the last point is that instead of going to a project built from a scratch approach, we need to leverage what already exists. Most of the technology already exists. This is a matter of integration. So less integration, let's say, less construction, better said, and more connections of existing pieces. The second point is also very relevant. When the technology is changing, when you don't have a clear path and you need to test and to see to what extent what you are doing makes sense or brings measurable results in terms of impact to the KPIs, we need to take a more agile approach. In software, it's absolutely clear, but for developing infrastructure, it's not so typical. So it's a way. So we can have a strategy, but we need to do small steps to see, to test, correct, and this is very important. And in every step also, in our understanding, we need to take care of not wasting too much resources, because sometimes we need to change, so we need to be light in terms of consumption, and we need to have a balance between the resources that are being made and the value that is being generated in every step. So putting 100% of the technology at the beginning to see what we can do with that is not a good idea. We prefer to do something more modular, start with something smaller and escalating in a more progressive way. Of course, we need to involve citizens. The connected city or the digital city or the smart city is for citizens for sure, but should be done also with citizens and with the involvement of the cities or citizens. Sorry. Well, here is one of the most difficult things. I think that when we take this agile mechanism, when at the beginning of the initiative we don't know the scope, even the resources that will be needed, when we don't know the times or the outcomes, well, the public purchasing is not very compatible sometimes with these mechanisms. We generate IP that sometimes is being replicated in other geographies. We want to test with something smaller, probably share, so we can use a cloud instead of an on-premise technology. All those things are not easy from the regulation point of view. Things are moving good. I think the European Union is doing well, is taking, say, more new measures to enable that, but still an issue. Well, just to go quicker, I will say that that's one of the most relevant points as well, is that from the beginning, we need to build what we call a digital community. We think that when you take a big territory, there are many similar situations, and there is a huge opportunity of benchmarking, on learning from of the others, to correlating data to see what is succeeding in one place and replicated in another. So city by city is very difficult, and even is impossible for a small cities or small villages. When we create a community, we can learn better, we can learn together, we can share experience, we can integrate more data, so we can train the models quicker is key. Well, that's some outcome from a thought leadership that is published in the website, so that's the BD code. If some of you wants to download it, happy to support you if you have any additional question afterwards. There is my contact, so we're more than happy to answer your questions about it. Okay? Okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What? I killed the time. Was two more slides, one example that I can do in a minute.
Absolutely.
Okay? Sorry.
You still have 2 minutes, so you get.
Yes, it's a real example. It's a real example that we are doing with EcoEmbes. EcoEmbes is the EPR, Spanish organization. It's 47 million people. We will cover 100% of the territory. We are managing around 500 million of turnaround. So it's huge. So they are running the EPR responsibility of like packaging and paper. And we are doing with them in a collaborative way is creating a digital ecosystem. You see here some important principles. This is a hub, what is in the middle, that basically serve all the stakeholders, citizens, industries, local authorities, regulator, everybody will be there. We are collecting raw data from the bins, from the trucks, from the plants. We are merging with some other sources of data as socio-demographical data, for example. And we are producing very easy to be consumed tools, as in the faint square that you see. These dots, the red dots, the meaning of that is that this building, based on the population, for example, aging population, based on the distance to the bin, based on the contribution that we are taking from this bin, is not well served. So probably is too far from the gate of the building. So we need to put more density of bins. This is very easy to understand by somebody that is not technical. We cannot put data scientists in all the municipalities, but we can provide these sort of tools, of course. And then when we provide this integrated and comprehensive information, then we start optimizing, we can providing more tools to control the level of service for a politician in the municipality, and also the third point is that we can come back to the citizen with a more concrete messages, so we can change the habits because we can provide a specific information. So we can call to action with the specific messages to the people, so we can convert to the target better. I think it's more or less done. You can see there different stakeholders, different KPIs, all of them build up around the same data that is being collected from many sources. This is what can be done with an ecosystem like this. Of course, this applies for big cities, a small one, and in the same model, we train and we deploy the lesson learned. Well, I think that we are running out of time. This is 30 seconds to finish. Very important also for us how to do progressively. The first stage, what we call vision, is something that we can provide for free to a given municipality, and is basically integrate the existing sources of data. There are many, but they are not combined. They are not translated into actionable information. This is a lot for many of the municipalities. The smaller one is enough for them. They can manage with that. But when we realize that in a given part of a given municipality there is a room for improvement, is when we recommend to put sensors, to add real-time data. So we don't start with the sensors. The sensors are being put where more information is required. So it's much more sustainable from the financial point of view. Of course, once this data is there, this real-time data, we can set up a more real-time management, so it's, of course it's better, but only in those areas that make sense. After a few months or year, a lot of data, very granular data, homogeneous data, normalized data has been collected, so we can train the artificial intelligence model. And then we can go to a more proactive way. Of course, you cannot go to the third level of sophistication without being in the second. And in many cases, it makes no sense to go in the second because the first is much more enough. Everything is in the same place, so we can offer different flavors to different cities based on the needs and the possibilities. And I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question for you. If you have a question, also you can line up the microphone in the meanwhile. You say citizens are the center of your strategy. And engaging citizens in the circular economy, especially for waste, it's key.
Yeah.
How do you really enable that? How technologies can inform and train citizens also in really doing, the job as a citizens?
Well, we are taking the concept of precision marketing to enable the concept of precision communication. So you in Amazon get messages that are adapted to your needs, to your pattern, to your habits of consumption, and of course you are more reactive and you buy more because of that. The same principle applies to the communication to the citizen. You need to be chirurgic. You need to go the right message at the right moment to the right guy. Once you do that, what we see are we're much more effective. So we think that we are moving from mass communication to a more personalized, contextualized, and proactive messages as in the marketing it's happening.
So you can go down to a street scale level to tailor communication to improve the citizen.
What is happening there is they are putting enough packaging there. They are maybe mixing badly. It is because of what? Maybe there is a common pattern across in the same city because of the aging, and that or is just in summer. It depends, but you can go there with more precise messages.
Very interesting.
That's the key.
Is there any question? If you have, please use the microphone. If not, I have another question because I still have 30 seconds. I'm going to use those. So this system has been implemented mostly in Madrid, am I correct? Or have you also used it in other cities?
Well, we were piloting so far. So we are in several cities. We are in Rioja. We are in Cantabria, in Spain. We are developing in Basque Country, in Canary Island, also in Galicia. But the plan is for 2021 year, as the regulation from the EU will be implemented in Spain. This will be deployed for 100% of the municipalities. So it will be deployed for more than 8,000 municipalities. That is a huge.
All right. Well, very interesting. If you're interested also to discuss with Miguel, you can use the coming soon coffee break. I want to thank you. A big round of applause for Miguel, Angel, González, and Román. Thank you so much. Please. My role now is to wrap up a bit this discussion. There's two very different examples that focus a lot into how to habilitate infrastructure, especially digital infrastructure, to manage waste at city level. I want to give you a couple of personal considerations, though, as can define myself expert on circular economy. I want you also to encourage to think not just about waste when you think about circular economies in cities. Of course, that's the main thing to do right now. It's the most urgent, it's the most important, it's the basic we have to achieve, and especially Europe, Miguel has reminded us, has set specific goals, and city has to reach these goals. But also if you want to dream, given that the topic of this year conference is City of Dreams, we have to start to dream the real circular cities. And circular cities also are cities that will not just help to manage waste in an incredible way, as we have seen, but also to reduce the way we produce waste, to think alternative way we share products, think alternative ways we distribute goods. And cities must be leading this type of transformation. So I really encourage you, if you are a businessman or you are a city maker, to really start to be creative in the way we imagine the circular economy cities. And we'll see also in the next panel many more ideas that will help us to rethink cities in a different way. The moderator will be talking about also repair. She set up a company that's push a lot into the role of repairing goods, because of course we can recycle them, but sometimes probably we have better impact in repairing them rather than just throw into the trash and then recycle it. So we really have to think what are the best solutions available. And then we of course have to use all these beautiful, incredible technologies that are presented here today. I want to thank you to be here for the first part of this panel. Now we have a networking session, meaning that you can enjoy a coffee and meet the people who are present in this room, or talk with the speakers, talk with me, and we will reconvene in 20 minutes from now. I will be calling when it's due time to sit back again for the panel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for now.
So, ladies and gentlemen, nice to see you here. We are going to have a panel about waste. So waste is the topic that is not so popular, or at least was not so popular. Maybe in 10 years ago, in such a congress like we are here, would not be a topic to speak about. But today it is, and it shows the importance that it gives a lot of us, a lot of us, because in general, waste is something that we see as a dirty thing, something that we don't want to see it anymore. We send it to third countries. After the noisy truck that takes the waste from our homes leaves, so we don't think about it anymore and we don't go where it goes. So I think this is something that has to change. Talking about waste, I think there are two types of waste. One, as has been already talked about, is the one that can be seen as a source. So we can use the circular economy tools like remanufacturing or recycling to still take the value out of the waste, which makes sense. And there is other waste that is already designed to be a waste, such as packaging, single-use plastics, or even nuclear waste that we could talk about also. So these are the two types, but in general, what we need to do is to try to eliminate the creation, to reduce the creation of the waste. So do something before a product becomes waste. This is what we also do in our organization. We want the designers and the producers to make products that are repairable. So when a small part of a product breaks, you don't need to throw it away, but you can always find a component and tools and manual and software that is needed to make it work again. So this is about reducing the waste. But today, we are going to speak more about the part how we treat with the waste today, because let's say the ideal world, when we already will not speak about the waste again, because that word would not be in our vocabulary anymore. One day, it's still in the future, and that's why we have to go and try to reach that goal with different tools and strategies. So today, I would like to present to you our three speakers who would present their successful strategies, how to deal with the waste. It's Tamara Striefland from Metabolic. Please come to the podium. It's Nancy Thomas from AMS Luxembourg. And it's Fernando Sogo from Urbaser. Welcome. So I would like to present you the first speaker, Tamara Striefland from the Cities Team Lead Amsterdam. Tamara leads Metabolic Cities program, through which develops sustainable solutions for water, waste systems, and renewable energy. Drawing a background in earth science, she integrates scientific expertise on ecological challenges with creative, high-tech solutions.
Great. Well, I sound very good on paper. Welcome, guys. Waste to wealth, circular opportunities for cities. Yeah, because cities are our future. They're the places where people meet. They're a place of creativity, interaction, and they're also home to the majority of the population. They drive our global economy. But cities also make enormous impact. Although they only cover 3% of land service, they're responsible for 75% of all global resource use, and they emit more than 60% of our greenhouse gas emissions. And cities are growing. Yes, there we go. So our current economic model, in combination with this rapid urbanization, has a lot of negative impacts on the world, both inside of cities but also outside of cities. Think about floods or bad air pollutions. Like, I'm sure you're all familiar with that. So we need to do something. And the nice thing is that we can transform our economy by changing the way that we design and plan these cities. So this is what we're working on with Metabolic. So we are working as a company with 40 people based in Amsterdam on making the transition to a fundamentally sustainable economy. And one way of doing that is by going from a linear to a circular economy. And there's, I think, 144 definitions of what a circular economy is, but we also have one. We see the circular economy as a new economic model in which we cater to all of our needs in an equitable and just way without crossing the planetary boundaries or undermining the biosphere. So I think oftentimes when we think about the circular economy, we think about devices such as these. I see that many of you have one in your hand. And when it comes to the end of life, you can recycle this machine, right? And you send it somewhere and it goes to recycling. Well, it's not always clear where it goes. And it might end up in a community that has to deal with that. So is that circular? I don't think so, because it has a very negative, or it could have a very negative effect on a community and its health. So that's why we came up with our 7 pillars of the circular economy, and that's to avoid burden shifting. So in the circular economy, we believe that materials are cycled to continuous value, but also that we have our energy come from renewable sources, and we don't use too much of it. And water comes from replenishable sources. Also, biodiversity should be structurally supported, and we shouldn't have a negative impact on human health, and we should value human culture. And then finally, we should think about other ways of value than economic. So think about aesthetics for a while. We also approach all of our projects from a systems approach, and that's also to avoid this burden shifting. So what we do is we really try to find out what the root causes are of certain issues in cities or in industries or in NGOs or other topics. And then we come up with a strategy that really addresses these. So our interventions are really focused on these root causes so that we make the most impact that we can make. And we're working on different scales. So besides working for a lot of companies, we also work in cities, starting with the building level. What does a circular building look like? But then also, how does that relate to its neighborhood? How can neighborhoods play a role in the circular city? And then citywide strategies as well, and regional, because there's also lots of research flows going across regions, right? But that's not how we started. We started very small, about 7 years ago in Amsterdam, and we started by experimenting. So this is a picture of the Keuvel. The Keuvel is our circular living lab. And 7 years ago, the municipality of Amsterdam had a really like an old shipyard, a very polluted piece of land. And they said, who wants to do something with this land for 10 years? Make it a nice space, make sure that, like it's going to thrive again. This was a very marginalized piece of land. But in those 10 years, you also have to clean it. After that, we have to have a clean piece of soil that we can develop, for example, for housing. So what we did is we worked together with the consortium to create this place where 14 houseboats, old houseboats, were remodeled. Like we basically did the manufacturing of all of that ourselves, and then put on the land, and they're connected by a boardwalk. And on top of that, I'm sure you can all see the green there. That's a remediating park. So that's actually a lot of plants that are cleaning the soil as we go. And this is also the place where we test our frameworks and our new technologies. And the government has been really nice to us by giving us a lot of space to experiment. So the rules are a bit less, or they're a bit more flexible. And this is where we try things. So this is a circular office space, right? All the boats are connected by a smart grid, for example. They have solar panels on the roof. And they exchange energy. If one has too much, they can give it to the other. But also this place is off the sewer. We have composting toilets, and we try to make compost out of that, but also struvite that you can also use to grow plants. And we have an aquaponics greenhouse where we use fish to fertilize our plants that we then use in the restaurant that is on site. So we're trying to close loops on many small scales. And it's really, this is, oh yeah, this is our lab, where on the top you see our greenhouse. And we use this space to activate, because we know that all our information, the circular economy is complex, and everybody here, I'm sure you're all working on incredibly interesting ideas, but it's also good to share them. So we also use this space to really activate, to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing and that we can spread the word. And it's working because thousands and thousands of visitors are coming to this place every year, and we show them what the circular economy means into practice. So this is how we started, but after that we started working on an area level, right? So what does a circular area look like, and what are circular cities? So we did a big project in the neighborhood that this Living Lab lives in. It's called Buiksloterham, and it's in the north of Amsterdam. And we worked with a lot of partners to make this area a circular neighborhood. And this is the vision for that, and it's nice because this is a newly built neighborhood, which allows us to really be very bold and create a vision that is like not energy neutral, but energy productive, or like closing all the different waste loops. So it's really looking at being at the forefront. It's another one. And now we're working in many different cities globally. So we're working in Singapore, we're working with the city of Amsterdam, lots of work, Rotterdam, but also Copenhagen, and we're now working in the US on Circular Charlotte and Boulder in Colorado. And I wanted to briefly, because we were of course talking about waste, so I wanted to briefly stress Charlotte, or kind of like talk a little bit about what we did there. Because Charlotte was sending a lot of its recyclables to Asia, and that then stopped because Asia didn't want the recyclables anymore of the US, so they had to do something, right? The waste system had to change. Charlotte also wanted to create more jobs. So what they asked us is like, hey, can you come up with a circular economy strategy, taking waste as a starting point, and then also while you're at it, create all the jobs that we need. So that's what we did. And what we always do as a company is we start with a current state analysis, because if you don't know where you are, it's very difficult to go where you want to go. So this is one, and I think Maayke showed it an hour ago, but this is our current state analysis of Charlotte. So it shows exactly what is produced in terms of waste by commercial companies, but also by households, and where it's going. So I'd like you to look in the far right for you. And there's a little bit of a triangle, because that's a hotspot. That's where we identified that that's a good point to intervene. A lot of Charlotte waste is still going to landfill, and these are valuable materials. So we identified a couple of these. One of them was plastics. So if you were to send plastics to a different place than the landfill, you could actually avoid almost 900, barrels of oil. You could also make a lot of revenue, and you can actually create jobs. So we are trying to turn something that was a problem into a very positive solution on multiple fronts. And what we also did is we made a strategy for Charlotte, and then for 5 business cases, really in-depthly calculated what the revenue could be, what the impact would be, and how you could achieve this strategy. So here you see the circular concrete chain. We did with black soldier flies, which is actually a really good way of composting. And then also we came up with a new collection system. And the key takeaways of this project is that you can create more than 500 or more than 490 jobs with only these 5 solutions. And that also you can very structurally reduce your carbon emissions and make a lot of revenue. It says 22 million a year, which is incredible. So, of course, the city of Charlotte also wanted to communicate what they were doing. So just like we did with the Keuvel, we also are creating a living lab in Charlotte where people, like local businesses, can really start new businesses that are focused on this new waste system and the circular economy. But also it gives a place for the government to showcase what they are doing. And now we're not only doing that in Charlotte, but also doing a circular strategy for Boulder. And I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. It was very inspiring. Now I would like to invite Fernando. Fernando comes from Urbaser. He's head of the Nordic region, and he has more than 10 years of international experience in waste management. It will be interesting because you have also the, let's say, southern vision and also the northern vision. So looking forward.
Okay, thank you. And hello, everybody. My name is Fernando Sogo. I'm the country manager for Urbaser in Nordics. But before being in Nordic, I have been working in different countries as Panama, Morocco, Italy, and today I am based in Sweden. I would like to introduce first the company, but only for show that we are a global company doing service around the world. That's allow to us to have the experience about the waste markets around the world. Our company, Urbacer, is working in at least 28 countries. Our turnover is around 1.8 billion euros per year. And today we are serving more than 50 million inhabitants. Our company is very focused in research and innovations, and we are investing around 7 million euros per year. This is the footprint of the company. As you can see, we are almost in all the continents, focused in Europe and South America. That is a very natural market for a Spanish company. But today we are working in Asia and North America also. Then that allows us to have a global perspective of the waste market. Our company is providing service in two big areas: urban service collections and waste treatment facilities. Then we collect and we treat. Then we can say that we are doing all the circular service around the waste. Urban service includes waste collections, street cleaning, and different activities as beach or green areas management. For waste, we are operating and we are building different facilities as waste-to-energy plants, sorting facilities. We are managing landfills, composting plants, and so on. We have more than 128 plants around the world. As I said before, we are focused in innovation because we understand that the future of waste is linked with the innovation and with research. And to prove that, we have an important center for research based in the city of Zaragoza. That today is the way that we are developing a lot of projects regarding innovations for collection and treatment. We have more than 10 employees working in this center, and we have a lot of projects and patents. Only to show two main projects that we develop in this center. 2 years ago, we started to work with the first full electric truck, big truck, 26-ton trucks in the city in Barcelona. And today we can say that we have the knowledge and the experience using this truck that we are sure that is the future for the collections. Also, we have developed a platform using intelligence of things in order to manage all our information and all our tools for improve our service and for helps the municipality to do the cities more smart. The second point in my presentation is about Sweden. I'm going to speak a little bit about the market, the waste market in Sweden. And after we are going to see a very concrete service that today the company is managing in the city of Stockholm. In Sweden, as in a lot of countries, the responsibility of the waste is going to the municipalities for household waste, and is going to the producer if we regarding for recyclables as paper, packaging, or waste electrical and electronic equipment. The market in Sweden is around 64% doing by private companies, but and 33% doing by municipalities. But we can see that the trend is to do more service in-house, because if we compare with the figures in 2014, we can see that the public percentage was only 25%. Then the trend is to do the service in-house. As we say before, the main point in all the channel is the citizens. In Sweden, the citizens are obliged to sort all the material, glass, metal, cardboard, paper, and plastic, and they are using recycling stations in order to fill, to empty, and to provide these products. And after is the producer that are involving in the collections. In the other hand, the municipality is the responsibility for residual and food waste, and it's in that case that normally private company as Urbacer, we are providing the service for the municipalities. Regarding the waste market in Sweden, we can see the figures, and we can see that is a very good system, because today at least 31% of waste is recycled in sorting facilities. 60% is going to composting plants, mostly coming from food waste collections, and the rest is going to waste-to-energy plants. Then we can say that basically landfill that don't exist in Sweden. All the waste is treated in waste-to-energy plants. In any case, we consider that if we look to the figures regarding the production of waste, around 452 kilos per inhabitants per year is produced in Sweden. Then we think that if we compare with the rest of the country in the Nordic area, there is a very good improving. And the same if we regard the packaging rates. Going to the Stockholm city, today we are providing the service in the city. The normal challenge for the municipality regarding waste is, as usual, to reduce the production, to reuse the products, to try to do the collection separately, and of course they try to reduce the construction and demolition waste. That is a big problem in big cities. Also for textile waste, that is a big problem, and for food waste, they try to increase. We can see that the figures that in the city of Stockholm, they are the program from 2006 until 2026. They are reducing the waste productions, they are increasing food waste, and they are reducing the figure of kilograms per inhabitant per year. The main goal is to go until 424 kilos per inhabitant. But how a company as Urbacer can help the municipality to do the service more smart and to do more efficiency? For example, in the city of Stockholm, we are using 100% biogas trucks. That means that we are using natural fuel, and we are avoiding CO2 emissions. Also, our trucks are using electrical compaction in order to reduce the noise impact. We are using our platforms and our different system of collections in order to reduce the kilometers and to reduce the emissions. For example, in some rural area, we use 2 chambers collection trucks that allow us to collect 2 different fractions at the same time. Also, all of our bins in the city are tagged, and we use that in order to control the number of pickups and in order to control the weight from the waste that we are collecting. These tools allows to the municipality to develop the system to pay as you throw. That means that they are able to tax the clients or the citizens in order regarding the number of pickups or the weight of the waste that they are producing. Also, we are helping the municipality in Stockholm to improve the food waste collection. That is one of the main goals that they have. We are using special trucks for that, and we are very focused in the commercial activities that we think that they are the big producer about this food waste. And for them, it was a very important project for the city in Stockholm. They are today building a new facility because they are thinking that the future is doing the collection only using one bin and sorting this bin with opticals according to the color of the sacks. Then today they are building this facility, and probably it's going to be ready in 2023. And of course, Urbacer, as private company, we are going to try to help them to improve this system of collection. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Fernando. Now we welcome our last speaker for today, Nancy Thomas. Nancy Thomas comes from IMS Luxembourg. She's a director, and since 2012, she's leading the IMS Inspiring More Sustainability, which is the long name, the Luxembourg Network on Corporate Social Responsibility. She's a member of the board of CSR Europe and the vice president of the Advisory Commission for Social Economy Enterprise at the Luxembourg Ministry of Labor.
Thank you, Susanna. So first of all, I just want to introduce our organization in the small country of Luxembourg. So we are a non-profit organization, so as you mentioned, called IMS, meaning Inspiring More Sustainability. And we are a network of companies in the country. So we have about 150 actually company members of our organization, representing 15% of the national workforce in the country. So we are a quite big organization in Luxembourg. And what we do exactly? So we are active on the 3 challenges of the sustainable development. So on the pillar people, planet, and prosperity, we have different activities. So for example, we have different tools, we have a magazine, we have different specific club for our members. For example, we have a club dedicated for purchaser, a club for CSR manager, and a club for CEOs, which will be very important for the topic that I will tackle just after. So the topic of today is waste. And what do we do at IMS is we try to embark with us our company that are member of our organization to have common project, collaborative action, fighting different challenges, and one is plastic waste. And we have decided 2 years ago to raise awareness of our members regarding that topic. So first, we began to have a conference and a full files in our magazine to raise awareness regarding plastic waste. So we mentioned it in the keynote speech that we had before. Plastic waste is a very huge topic, and we have to find concrete solution, not to reduce, but in our project it's to remove plastic, single-use plastic. I will explain it just after. So linked to another activity that we have, it's the Luxembourg CEO Sustainability Club. In the beginning of 2018, we had a meeting with different CEOs, so there were 20. And during that meeting on the topic of social business, they asked us to have a concrete common action. So if you look on social business, it's very difficult to have a common or collaborative project on social business because it depends on your business. So as we began to raise awareness on plastic waste, we decided with the team of IMS to have a concrete action on removing single-use plastic. So always in 2018, next meeting of our club of CEOs, we had a meeting on the management of new generation, so no link to our subject. And for the dessert, we reserved a surprise to 60 CEOs that were present to propose them a manifesto on removing single-use plastic. So the manifesto were based on the future directive, because at that time the directive was not validated by the European Commission. So we asked CEOs to sign a manifesto, and the idea was to remove single-use plastic, so all the plastic that were in the future directive, so plastic cups, stirrers, plastic bottles, takeaway boxes, snacks wrappers, balloons, straws, plastic bags, so lots of products. And at the end of the dinner, we already have 20 signatures of the manifesto, and actually we have around 70 organizations that are in the project. Their objective is to remove their products from their company for the end of 2020, so before the end of 2020. So it represents a lot of companies, lots of employees working on that topics with us. So we had decided to have different working groups. One were on stationery and office supplies, one on cleaning products, and one on catering and events. And what we did is take all the products, identifying good practices and solutions, because the idea is to remove. So if we remove some single-use plastic, what do we do? What is the sustainable solution that we can propose to companies? And actually, we have identified many good solutions. Many are very good, and we exchange with plastic manufacturer, because we changed a lot the business. Actually, in Luxembourg, it was a little storm regarding what we did, because we have decided to fight single-use plastic, and it was we had a big echo in the country with that project. And we asked all the companies that have signed the manifesto what was the quantity that they used on each product the year before, so in 2017, to measure the impact of our initiative. And so just here. So we will avoid 154 tons of single-use plastic each year thanks to the project. So it's a very huge quantity, and if we imagine that we can develop our initiative in other European countries or in the world, we will have a bigger impact. So here you have the nice picture of our signatory of the manifesto, because we did a big event this year to show again the commitment of our CEOs regarding the project. And I would like to show you a short video that we did just to show you how you can easily remove single-use plastic in your day-to-day life at your office. So I hope, yeah, it works, no? Yeah. No. Can you launch it? Sorry. Please?
Is it possible to play a video?
No.
Otherwise?
Can you launch the video at the end of the presentation? Or not?
No. No. We have a sign that it's not possible, but maybe
okay.
you can let
send
some...
the link, or
yes, like
can
say
go
how,
on our website and
okay.
see it.
It will be on the website.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have heard three interesting stories. Now we have time for questions and answers. Meanwhile, you can still think of them and maybe reach the microphones. I would like to ask some questions. So let's start from the end, because we are still in the topic. So I would like to ask you, like in the practical terms, what was the most complicated thing to avoid in the offices? Do you have any feedback on that?
So we have two products that are really difficult to remove from companies. It's plastic bottles and snack wraps, because companies have signed contracts for 3 or 4 years with contractors to have the snack wraps, and it's very difficult to cut that contract, and the sector is not prepared to propose other products in their machine. And for the question of plastic bottles, it's an issue very complicated because we are talking about water. And we have identified, so you can use bottle and glass like we have today, but in some companies sometimes it's difficult, so we have to find issue. And actually we exchange a lot with a plastic manufacturer and with the administration of water in Luxembourg, and we will have different workshops in the beginning of next year regarding the question of water.
Yes, this is an interesting topic also here in Barcelona, where you really don't want to drink the tap water, although it's fine, but
it's
there is
the
really
same. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I add to?
Sure.
I just think it's really great that you're starting with the procurement strategy. So I think that's a really nice way for companies to start doing sustainability, right? That's the one thing you have influence over. I think it's a really great strategy.
Yes, and we also have a club dedicated for purchaser in our company that I'm member of AIME. So we discuss a lot about different subjects. So plastic is one, but what we have identified is that we have the list of we have around 10 products in the manifesto, but companies were really have a commitment that go further than the manifesto. So they identified other products that we can add in the discussion. So that's very cool.
And then, sorry.
Go on.
Then, of course, it's also important to choose what kind of products you have, right? Because a coffee cup might influence all the people that work at your company as well, because they really see like, oh, that's now a different type of coffee.
And we have lots of discussion around life cycle analysis. If we choose that solution, is it good or not? So it's very complicated to find some issues sometimes.
It's not so straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, I think it's perfect if we have a discussion. I think it's supposed to be like that. Well, let's see now with the other question for Fernando in this case. Well, there is a question that I heard so many times, like around waste, and it is like, does it make sense that we are sorting the waste? Is, for example, the plastic, as we sort it, like all the different kinds of plastic, many times we don't really know what to put there. So is it really recycled? Maybe you can say in Stockholm, but also in different countries could be different. So what is the reality, how it works?
Okay, it's true that, for example, the plastic is a big issue, a big problem around the world. But for sure, we are trying, the different governments are trying to find local solutions, because it will be difficult to find a global solution, because the reality in each country is different. Then the first step that we need to do is to reduce the plastic level, but we need more legislation regarding how we are going to reuse this plastic. Then the governments need to involve the producer and the private company in order to have a different and local solutions for each problem of the plastic. But for sure, today we are sorting plastic in Stockholm with a very successful results.
Right. Yes, it was something like also in the last presentation, well, in the first one actually today, I was just wondering, for example, the orange peels, how do you get them from the waste, right? Which is not simple to imagine. So these are like procedural things, really know about like details how you make it. So I think we will then later talk about that. I'm really interested. Okay, so now I would also like to ask Tamara something, but meanwhile, please, I'm sure that there are like for sure many questions. Okay, let's keep on it.
Yes, maybe one for Tamara. So my name is Valérie Lato. I'm working for Engie, and yes, first thank you for the very inspiring speech. I was just wondering, so you showed this Sankey diagram, with the resources coming in a city and how it's used at the end. I was really wondering what are the key criteria you are using, and how you at the end compare, how do you compare the different actions we can take to become more circular, to compare, apple with the apples. So I mean, in terms of resources, you have water, energy needs, different resources. At the end, so how do you compare it? How do you advise your clients to say, okay, well, if you want to be really impactful, these are the key actions you have to treat at first?
Excellent question. So what are the key actions you can take after making one of these Sankey diagrams? First of all, I'd like to clarify that this was only half of one, because we looked at all the waste that is coming out, but we didn't look what is going into the city. So that's what we most of the time do, right? So you have the water and the energy and the materials that people buy that are actually coming into that city. And then it goes through the city and you get what is coming out. So that's step one, right? And it's not only a current state of the material flows, we also have to see what the city looks like spatially, or we have to see what kind of stakeholders we're dealing with, kind of analyzing the context. Step two then is like formulating a vision. So we know where we are, then where do you want to go? So we're really looking to work together then with the local government, but also other people in the city, to co-create that vision of what the sustainable or circular city looks like there. And then we start backcasting. So then we start thinking, what kind of interventions can lead to this vision, right? And we have this decision-making hierarchy that we use for choosing implementations. The first thing you want to do is reduce how much you're using, right? So energy you were mentioning, start by reducing the amount. Then we look at synergy. So if you still need to use some of that energy, maybe you can get it somewhere else where it's wasted. So then we look at industrial symbiosis, or see if companies or the city can kind of help each other by sharing, just like the Keuvel that I showed, where they are actually sharing energy. Then the third one, if you can't get it somewhere else, then maybe we have to buy it, right? But then buy it from renewable resources. So choose materials that are renewable. And then finally, management. So management, with that I mean like, maybe you want to do your laundry when the sun is shining, so when you have electricity. So that's really coming up with smart ways of kind of impacting these other solutions. And then what we do with all these interventions, of course you can come up with them, but there's always the kind of like impact that it makes on that current state, right? Like that Sankey diagram we can then also model in a way that you see that it's smaller. But we also have to think about what the stakeholder, like, is it viable? So we look at impact versus feasibility. And with feasibility, we mean not only like, can we pay for it? Because that's also a thing, of course. Like there's financial restraints sometimes. But also like, is it organizationally feasible? And that really depends on every project. So these criteria that you use for selecting is very different for working with the city, for example, because then, of course, you have regulatory boundaries, like laws or zoning policies, or think about it. Or with industries, when, for example, a procurement strategy, you have a lot of influence over. So that really depends on the different projects. I hope I answered that. I tend to talk very long, as you
I would like to have another question also in that regard.
Sure.
Okay, the process is that you define like what is the best and how to make it. Okay, this is done. But now how do you actually implement? How do you work with the citizens? How do you make the city or the people, the users, to do that actually? So how you motivate them or how you work with them?
Yeah, so I think this is a great question again. I think it's of course crucial to work with the people that are working in a neighborhood. So what we really try is to take everybody and bring them to the front of the project. So of course the very best is when the idea already came from the people living in the neighborhood, or when they actually said like, hey, I'd like to live in one of these circular neighborhoods, how can we do it? That's what happened in Buiksloterham, the project that I showed. But in general, and I think that's also something that the municipality of Amsterdam is really good at. They call it the quadruple helix. I don't know, maybe you've come across it already. I think they're advertising quite a bit about it. But it's like not only working together with institutions, companies, and the government, but also including citizens in that. So that way you really make sure that you're doing it from the beginning. And that's also what we did in the Keuvel, right? Like that was an old shipyard. So now we have kind of like little festivals at the Keuvel where the old people that used to work for the shipyard still come and hang out and tell stories about the past days. So we really try to involve these kind of things. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, please. There is just in the front the micro.
Hi, thank you for the presentation, very inspiring. My name is Florencia, and I wanted to ask mainly maybe Tamara about what are the main barriers a company like Metabolic finds in going from a local company to an international company that has impact more like at the international level. And my question is more focused on, I think it's easier to have these type of circular economies in maybe the global north and small, medium-scale cities. What is happening, if you have any international experiences or examples of best practices in these terms, in the global south or maybe massive cities like you have in Asia, maybe?
Yeah. No, that's actually something we're right now running into. So we have developed this whole method, and then we've done many cities, but indeed, that's mostly in the global north. So I think there's actually 2 points there. Like, one is that a lot of things that are happening are already circular. They're just not called that, right? Like, we heard a question earlier today about a mister that was talking about the informal settlements and how waste is recycled there. That's circular. I think there's this really great map that I would recommend. It's of the African Circular Economy Network that really shows, like, for the entire continent of Africa, where there's a lot of things already happening. So that's point one. Point two is that every context is different, right? Not only you have the global north or the global south, like every city is different. So what we really try to do is, like, I can go to Charlotte or to Boulder, Colorado right now and try to execute a strategy and come up with their circular vision. That doesn't really work because it takes years to understand the context, like to really understand what you're working on. So we want to partner with local organizations. I think that's also a very good way to do it. And then also, yeah, starting from the people that actually live there, so involving communities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, meanwhile, we have any other question? I would also ask Nancy a bit in these terms, like, what is the how do you think this the idea that you have, or let's say the what you achieved, could be translated also to other countries, or what would you suggest them, or who should be the actors? Like, what companies should be the actors who should be active in these terms?
So we are the national partner organization of a European organization called CSR Europe. And we had different meetings where we had presented our action. And actually, some countries, our national partner organization in Italy, in the Czech Republic, and in Greece, and in Spain, are doing the same than we do. So we are in the process of different European countries taking our initiative as a model. And in Netherlands, our organization where we work with has launched a plastic pledge, but in tourism. So they take our initiative, but in a specific sector. So we know that actually the project is going to be to go further than just Luxembourg. And we see that some companies that have their headquarters in Luxembourg has worked with the other countries in their own company, and they have developed the initiative for the whole company at a worldwide level. So that's a good initiative.
It's contagious.
Yes, but if some people would like to use the initiative and do the same in your own country, we are totally open to share what we did and to do the same abroad.
Yeah, that's also how you can scale up, right? Like how you just be contagious and share open source what you're doing, I think is important.
Yes, great. Please, we have a question.
Good afternoon. I had a question around circular cities. It's nice, but circular cities also gets down to business, and business means waste. And one of the problems of the cities is actually waste, plastic, non-organic waste, or any kind of waste. And if you circularize it, then you have a better energy improvement of the system. So in terms of biogas, it's actually one of the alternatives that is being mostly used in the Nordics, por mi amigo Fernando, que está por ahí, where we have a big presence and we've done a lot of projects in that area, and also the directive coming from the EU to oblige all the EU countries to get the organic waste also separated beyond plastics and carton. How do you see in Luxembourg, I think it's in the Netherlands, and in the Nordics, what is your perspective on biogas, and how is the industry, specifically the food industry, outlets, producers, coping with that? And if you see a role for this energy source to be done within the circular city effort.
Thank you.
So, good question, and I'm not sure to have all the answer to your question. Actually, we also work on food waste in our organization. So our objective is always to avoid and not to have waste. So it's what we do on the initiative of plastic and what we do on food waste. And then regarding biogas, I know that we have different organizations and companies working on that aspect, but I'm not the good person to answer to the question. And I can put you in contact just after my presentation with some people that can answer better than me. Yeah, sorry. I don't know if you have a...
Yeah, no, I think I think that's definitely true. Like waste is a very big leverage point. You know, like when you start, like with a circular city, it's a great point where to start turning the Rubik's Cube, as we call it, right? It's an entry point to the circular economy. And I think it's true, like you want to avoid first.
Yeah.
But that also means that you have to know where it occurs, right? So I think that also talks to the platform that Maayke has, is like you kind of figure out where the waste is happening and if it's not a resource for something else or someone else. Yeah. So
we did it in a company's restaurant. So we avoid a lot of food waste now because we have trainings for people, for example, from Sodexo. We did that, and we have lots of partnership between other non-profit organizations to give the food that stay in the canteen. And then what we cannot avoid, I know that we have some biogas or different industry working on that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, there's also with food waste, you have the food waste that you can eat, right? Like that you should actually not throw away, but there's also some unavoidable food waste. So that is also, I think, an important part to make biogas of. Yeah.
Yes, I think obviously we need to try to reduce food waste. But regarding the collection, today we need to improve the food waste collection because we need to do this in a separate collection because as is very common in Nordics, we are using this biogas coming from the food waste treatment, and we are using this in order to move our fleet for the collections. Then I can say that at least 50% of our trucks today in Sweden is moving by biogas fuel.
Actually, I don't know if I was not wrong, but in your presentation you were showing that the food waste production was growing a lot. Yes. And I was thinking, like, this is not probably that the Swedish people eat more now.
No, the problem that today this food waste is sending in the waste-to-energy plants. That's not the best solution. That we think that we need to separate, to collect separately, and we use this for composting plants and for producing biogas.
Yeah, I think if I just can latch on to that, like I think waste to energy is a really, I mean, it's a bit of a controversial solution, right? Like we have a waste to energy plant in Amsterdam. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it broke. It broke. Like 4 of the 6 ovens weren't working anymore. So we created a lock-in because a lot of neighborhoods are actually reliant on heat from that waste to energy plant. So what are they going to do? You know, like and also like we were importing waste from England, quite a lot. And those contracts are still there. So the waste is coming. We can't burn it anymore. So, and I don't know if you've been to Holland, it's quite small. So there's not a lot of place to go and landfill all of that. So it creates these lock-ins as well. I think that's also a good thing to be aware.
Yes, obviously the waste-to-energy plant is not the best solution, but in any case it's one of the solutions better than landfill.
Yes.
Then today, if we compare Nordic solution with waste-to-energy plants with the south of the Europe that we are still using, 40% of our waste is going directly to the landfills. We can say that it's a best solution.
Yes, currently it's probably the best solution, right?
Yes.
Do we have any more questions? We have just a few minutes left. There is still some. No? Okay, for the moment not. So, well, I think we could use the time that is left a little bit, like, okay, Tamara, you already did that slightly, which inspired me to this question. Like, what you see as the most important advantages that the others of you do, if you should consider, or maybe also if it's still missing maybe something, would you suggest something, or what do you see as important in each other's strategies or achievements?
Yeah.
Please, please.
Okay. I think a couple of things are very important. Of course, everybody says this, but I really do think it's important to collaborate more. Different companies are good at different things. Government is good at different things than companies. So let's try to do it together, but that also means sharing what you're doing. So being transparent about data, about like the motives you might have. And I can really go very long about this, but I want to give you the chance to.
You tackle one point just before. It's to be transparent, but also to know very well who is doing what. So to exchange a lot with people, to connect people, to have different meetings and exchanging and knowing each other is very important, because without that, I think we cannot have collaboration, and collaborative action is the key, because working together, we have more impact, and we see it in our action at IMS.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, obviously, we say before, citizens are the key in this process, but also we need that the governments legislate in order to improve our legislation for pushing companies or producers in order to reuse this product.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. I think it was a very interesting conversation. I would just say that we have seen interesting examples on different levels, like on the company level, about the citizens, at the city level, regional level. So we see that it's possible to make this management of the waste streams in a different way than we do usually today. So now it's not like it's too difficult, it can't be done. No, we have already examples that this is possible. So hopefully the people who see your projects and who start to think how they could implement it in their countries. So thank you very much again. I would leave the word to Emanuele.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Susanna. There is not much more left to say. I want to just thank you all for being here tonight. This afternoon, actually, is not night yet. If you, of course, want to continue talking with the speaker, that will be available right after the end of the session. And for today, that's all. I want to just give you this very interesting information. Catalonia next year is going to be the circular economy hotspot. So definitely we will hear more about circular economy in this region. Thank you so much again. Have a good afternoon.